Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to the second video of this week. I know I just said in the previous video that I'll be discussing the sample article review, but then I looked at the remaining topic and there were quite not quite a few, but yeah, two topics left. And before I actually gave you the sample, I need to cover this topic because these topics are also going to be included in your final exams or your quiz, right? So first I'll be covering these two topics in the next two videos, and after I'm done with that, then probably in the last video, because in the last video I'll be mostly focusing on the overall revision of the entire course that we began about 3 months ago from the first week of September. So because I'll be focusing on revision, so maybe somewhere during revision I can show you the sample review and I can discuss it with you, or if in case we don't have that room, then I'll be uploading the sample review on the Google Classroom. However, I'll try my best to actually discuss sample reviews with you, right? Okay, all right. So now this lecture is particularly about vocabulary. I have been referring to the importance of developing vocabulary since the very beginning of my classes, where I tell you that how you need to focus on your vocabulary and how you need to read. And I have also referred to one of the books that's very, very relevant for the students of your level, which is Barron's 1100 Words You Need to Know. And I told you how in that book you learn like about 20 words every week, right? And 4 days you learn 5 words, and then in the end there is a revision. So by the end of the year you are able to learn 1100 words. So there is vocabulary for the whole year that you can learn, that you can this is how you can develop your or increase your existing vocabulary. So I have referred to that book. I'll see if I can upload the PDF of that book in the Google Classroom, because it's not very easily available in the hard copy in the markets. So I'll be doing that. But apart from that, today I'll be teaching you how to decipher the meanings of unknown words that you come across in your classes with the help of contextual cues. So I'll be teaching you one of the ways of enhancing your vocabulary or facilitating your understanding of the new words that you come across while reading and things like that. So that's something that I'll be discussing in detail. So let's begin. Okay, so basically, what is your understanding of vocabulary? I think you all, face this issue of a limited vocabulary, especially when you're writing or doing any task. I have seen this in paragraph development in your midterm exams, that you people do not have a good vocabulary. Most of you people were using words incorrectly, out of place, and that is probably because of the lack of vocabulary. Since you people have not had that exposure, you people are not used to reading, so you do not have that that interaction with language and words, and how to use different words and relevant words in a particular context. This is something that is very important for you to learn. So what is your understanding of vocabulary? Vocabulary is, according to this definition by Ruffley, Logan, and Nicholas, vocabulary is particularly the glue that holds stories, ideas, and content together, making comprehension accessible for the readers. So it is through the understanding of vocabulary that you can actually comprehend ideas and content of any essay, article, novel, magazine, or anything that you're reading. So if you want to have a proper understanding or comprehension of what the content is about, then you need to have enough vocabulary, right? So you need to develop the existing vocabulary that you have. And this is the only way that you can enhance your level of comprehension. So now I'll just do a small exercise with you to help you understand what I'm trying to teach you today in a better way. So what I want you to do is that you look at the following words that I'll just be showing you right now. And I want you to just quickly give me the meaning of those words. Like not me, you need to stop the video and quickly just write whatever meaning you think these words carry. Maybe you have you have already come across these words somewhere, or maybe you do not know these words at all. So in that case, in your notebook you can write don't know, I don't know, I don't know, so that you know, okay, out of 5 how many words do you actually know. And even if you know, can you actually recall the meaning of these words? So this is an activity that you have to do with yourself, because this is linked to what I'm trying to teach you in the later part of this video. So let's begin. All right. So the first word is naite. Now the spelling is Naivete, or this is actually a. So it's pronounced as naite. So what do you think? What's the meaning of this word? Just randomly, just write down the meaning in your notebook, and later on when we discuss, you can check if you were able to guess the correct meaning or not. Aswaj, aswaj. So, how many of you actually know the meaning of this word aswaj? If you know, um, then you need to write it. Write it down. Okay. Right. Nocturnal. I believe this is comparatively easier. Maybe some of you have heard this word before, and probably you can recall it. All right. Then we have fiasco. So, do you know the meaning of fiasco? Have you heard this word before in any story, in any context, in a movie, during a conversation between two people? Have you heard it before? If yes, try to figure out the meaning. Then we have indigence. So, how many of you are familiar with the word indigence? Write down the meaning. Right. Now, I know after looking at these 5 words, many of you are thinking that, oh, I don't know the meaning of even one of them. Some of you are happy that you know at least 2 or 3 of them. But as far as I know, most of you would be panicking right now that, I don't know any of these words. And you would be doubting your level of comprehension in the English language and the current state of your vocabulary. But um, there is a problem. See, this is how words meanings are taught to us since the school life. That we read a chapter. The teachers used to make us do exercise that make 2 column. In one column write words, and in the other column write their meanings. And once you have done that, you were supposed to memorize that and reproduce that in your exam or class test. But there is a problem with this way of learning, cramming vocabulary. This is not how you can learn, or even if you learn for a specific period of time, you won't be able to recall the meaning in isolation. So it is very difficult to actually just randomly recall the meaning if you're not aware of how these words are used in a particular context. So, knowing the context and trying to decipher the meaning of the new words with the help of context cue is something that I will be teaching you today. So, this is a very important exercise for you people. This is something that will help you a long way, and will help you in improvising your level of comprehension in the English language. Right? So, let's begin. Now, what are context cues? Basically, context cues are words that the writers give to help define a difficult or an unusual word. The clue may appear in the same sentence as the word to which it refers, or it may follow in a preceding sentence. So, whenever you're reading a novel or a chapter of a book and you find a new word, mo- most uh, uh, most chances are there that you would either Google it, you'll pick up a dictionary, and you will try to find out the meaning. But what happens when there is a new word for you in every other paragraph, or if not in any other every other paragraph, that probably in every other chapter? and you always try to look the meaning in the dictionary, or you try to just see the meaning in the look for the meaning in the Google. So in this way, you probably would become totally dependent on sources which can give you the provide you the meaning then and there. But there is one other way which is more effective, which is more sustainable, which can help you become independent readers, and that is your ability to trying to decipher the meaning of words with the help of the available contextual cues. And this is something that you need to master right now. So whenever you're reading something, maybe in one of the paragraphs, in the third line of that paragraph, there is a new word which you are not familiar with. And because of that word, your overall understanding of that paragraph is compromised, or it's hindered, because you're not familiar with that particular word. So instead of just giving up and trying to look for the meaning in the dictionary of that unknown word, try to see how is that word used in that context. What does the previous sentence or the next sentence within that paragraph tells you about that particular word? Because even if you do not know the exact meaning of that word, you can try to decipher the same somewhat similar meaning with the help of the available contextual cues, right? So that is what contextual cues are, and it can be present anywhere in any form, either in the form of a synonym, or in the form of an antonym, or in the form of a general idea of the whole paragraph. So you might not be familiar with that particular word, but maybe you are familiar with the overall paragraph. I mean, you can have the general sense of that word after reading that paragraph. So it is very important for you to be able to recognize and take advantage of the context cue, since most of your vocabulary is gained through reading. So please remember, unlearn the wrong concepts that you have learned by now, जो स्कूल में आप लोगों ने गलत चीजें सीखी हैं, कि there is a list of words and you cram the meaning और आप memorize कर लें, because this is not how you increase your vocabulary. Vocabulary is always gained through reading. So the more you read, the more vocabulary or the better vocabulary you will develop with time. So you need to learn to utilize the contextual cues that are there. All right. Okay, so sometimes context cues are there in the form of synonyms. Now, I will be discussing about synonyms and antonyms in detail in probably the next part of our lecture in the next video. But right now, just a small review that synonyms are words which carry almost the similar meaning, right? So I believe you all are aware of what synonyms are. So I'll tell you how they work as context cues sometimes in the written text. Context cues are often found in the form of synonyms, and those are the words that mean the same as the unknown word. So probably sometimes you might not be aware of the meaning of an unknown word, but somewhere in the either in the same line or in the next line, the word might consist, the same paragraph might consist of a synonym of that unknown word. So by looking at the synonym, probably you can decipher the meaning of the unknown word. All right. Now, sometimes synonyms may also be purposely included by an author to help readers understand a less familiar word. Sometimes they have used, a difficult words, a difficult word, a high level vocabulary, but then they have also presented a synonym of that word so that readers can understand the word that is less familiar with the help of the synonym. So let's see. Are you averse? And then M dash, opposed to the decision, right? Are you averse, opposed to the M dash, and then opposed to the decision? So now deciphering the meaning of averse may be difficult. You might not be familiar with this word, but this M dash
and the word opposed to shows that opposed to is relevant to the unknown word. So which means that, are you not convinced of the decision, or are you opposed to the decision? So it has somewhat similar meaning. His naivete or innocence was obvious. Now, I showed you this word in the second slide, and I asked you to recall the meaning of this word, which I believe some of you might not have been able to do. But now, if you look here, his naivete or, now this word or shows that the next word is also connected to this word. The next word is probably the synonym of naivete. So his naivete or innocence was obvious. So now you did not know the word of naivete in isolation, but when you read this word or come across this word in this context, you can immediately identify that naivete means innocence, because it's written his naivete. The word or shows that innocence is the synonym of naivete. So naivete means innocence, masumiyat, sadgi. So his innocence was obvious. All right. Then let's look at yet another example. The salesperson tried to assuage the angry customer's feeling, but there was no way to soothe her. Right. Now you see, unlike the first two examples, the synonym is not readily available. Like, you cannot just immediately find the synonym in front of you. You need to reread this sentence. The salesperson tried to assuage the angry feelings, customer's feeling. So we know the context that assuage, the salesperson tried to assuage something, try to do something to cool down the customer who was angry, right? But now this word but shows something, but there was no way to soothe her. So which means to assuage, to soothe her. So now we know with the context that assuage probably means the same as to soothe. So what do we understand with the help of the context? That the salesperson tried to minimize tried to cool down the customer who was really angry. So with the help of looking at the word soothe, you can decipher the meaning of assuage. Are you getting my point? All right. After seeing the picture of the starving children, we felt compassion or concern for their feelings, for their sufferings. So some of you might not be aware of the meaning of the word compassion, but here, with the help of the synonym, which is easily present in front of you, which you can easily find because it's written after the word or, you can understand that the word compassion or concern or kindness, these are the words that are connected. So compassion means, having some sort of concern towards children, right? All right. Now, sometimes, just like the context cues are there in the form of synonym, the context cues might also be there in the forms of antonyms. Now, synonyms means the words having similar meaning, and antonyms are the words that have opposite meaning. So sometimes you may not know a word, but immediately after the word or somewhere before in the previous line, there might be a word which is the antonym of an antonym of the existing word. So if you know the antonym, you probably can decipher the meaning of a difficult word which is present there in the paragraph or in the write-up. So antonyms are basically words and phrases that mean the opposite of the word, and antonyms are also very helpful as context cues. And how would you identify that, probably an antonym is available of the unknown word? There are some signals in the form of different words and phrases which can help you identify, which can help give you a signal that probably an antonym of that unknown word has been used here by the author. So some words and phrases are however, but, yet, on the other hand, and in contrast. So if these phrases or words are used somewhere, then you probably have an idea that this unknown and the difficult word has an antonym. And if you know the meaning of antonym, because maybe the antonym is easier to understand or is an easy word is used there, so you can easily decipher the meaning of the unknown and the difficult word. All right. My sister Anne is lively and outgoing. My sister Anne is lively and outgoing. However, I am rather introverted. Now some of you, now the you need to understand the meaning of the words that are in bold and that are in italics. Okay, these are the unknown and the difficult words. Now if I just randomly ask you introvert, maybe most of you are not familiar with this word introvert, but you can understand the meaning of introvert by looking at the antonyms that have been used in the first line before the q however. So my sister Anne is lively and outgoing. Now you all know what does lively means. A lively or happy and energetic person, and outgoing is like someone who is very social, someone who likes to party or meet a lot of people. You know, so however, now this word however shows that whatever will come in the next line will be opposite to what has already been mentioned. However, I am, or maybe there could be a word but, or maybe in contrast, I am rather introverted. So now we know that introvert is basically an opposite of lively and outgoing. So if lively and outgoing person is someone who is social, who has a lot of energy, who likes to meet people, then in being introverted means a shy person, a less social person, a person who likes to be in a limited social circle, and who do not like to who do not like to socialize a lot or meet a lot of people. So this kind of um, meaning. Now let's look at yet another example. Religions in America are not static but changing. Now, maybe you are not aware of the word static. Now, but shows that the coming word is opposite of uh, the word which is italicized. So the religions in America are not static but changing. All right. So, but changing shows that static is opposite of changing. Static means something which remains the same, right? But religions in America are not static, but they keep on changing, especially in this period of shifting values. So static means something which just remains the same at one place, stationary, right? Okay. Many people have pointed out the harmful effects that a working mother may have on the family. Yet there are many salutary effects as well. So now, what is the meaning of salutary? Can you just randomly recall the meaning of salutary? If you do not have this context, probably it would be difficult to just recall the meaning of salutary without the help of the contextual context cue. But here we have the context. Many have pointed out the harmful effects that a working mother may have on the family. Yet, now the word yet shows that salutary has the opposite meaning of the word or the idea that has been presented before. Yet, there are many salutary effects as well. So, while many people have pointed out that there are some harmful effects associated with a working mother on the family, yet there are many salutary means beneficial impact as well. So salutary is basically opposite of harmful here. All right. Now, sometimes we have context cues in the forms of examples. So sometimes you might not know a word that has been used in a paragraph or in a chapter, but then after that word has been used, there are a list of examples that have been given. So by looking at the examples, you can probably decipher the meaning of that particular word. So examples are often introduced with such signals like including and such as. So whenever there is a new word and then immediately after that or probably in the next line, there are a list of words or examples given which have been introduced after the signals like including or such as, then you can easily understand or decipher the meaning of that unknown word. Are you getting my point? Okay. Nocturnal creatures such as bats and owls have highly developed senses that enable them to function in the dark. Now, if you remember, I showed you this word in the second slide when I asked you to find out the meaning of the unknown word. And I believe most of you were not able to decipher the meaning of that word because there was no context provided. So it's completely normal if you were not available to guess the meaning, because it's very difficult to just randomly recall meanings without any context. So knowing the context actually facilitates you and understanding the meaning. So you people are not dictionary that you can just randomly recall the meaning of a word, which is not, this is something which is not possible. So if I assess you on your vocabulary, I will be providing you with enough context, and with the help of that context you will be asked to identify the meaning of the unknown word. You will not be asked to cram the meanings of the words and then reproduce that in your exam. No, I won't be testing you in that manner. All right. So if you look at the example, bats and owls, and even if you read the rest of the sentence, have highly developed senses that enable them to function in the dark, you have a better idea of what nocturnal means. Nocturnal are basically creatures which can function effectively at night time. So they don't sleep, or they don't get tired like other creatures. Unlike them, they are very active at night. So nocturnal creatures who are very active and can function really well during night or in the dark, right? Let's look at yet another sentence. The adverse effects of this drug. Now you have to identify the meaning of the italicized word adverse. So maybe some of you are not aware of this word. Now including, now read the remaining examples that have been provided. The adverse effects of this drug, including dizziness, nausea, and headaches, have caused it to be withdrawn from the market. So if you do not know the word meaning of the word adverse, you can look at the example: dizziness, nausea, and headaches. What kind of impact these are? Obviously these are negative impact. All right. So now we have the third sentence, and so we will again be looking at the context cue. Common euphemisms. Now, if I ask you to tell me the meaning of the word euphemism, now you obviously won't be able to do that. But read the remaining part of the sentence. Include final resting place for grave and professional foul for cheating. Now, if you look at the examples that have been provided, you can have somewhat understanding of what the word euphemism can mean. So euphemisms are basically used to make something less threatening, or, to tone down the impact, to present it in a rather, uh, um, in a better manner. So instead of saying grave, a lot of people say final resting place. This is होता है ना कि instead of saying मरना, people say कि फौत हो गए, right? या जहाने फानी से कूच फरमा गए. So इसी तरीके से euphemism होता है जिसमें आप कुछ words जो कि उनकी impact दूसरे तरीके का होता है, आप उनके बजाय दूसरे phrases use करते हैं. तो that is what euphemisms are. Right? So if you look at the example, you can understand the meaning of word euphemism with the help of the contextual cues. All right. Now let's look at another example. All right. So what we have discussed so far, that sometimes context cues are there in the form of synonyms. Sometimes context cues are there in the form of antonym. And sometimes context cues are also there in different examples that have been provided. There is yet another way to find the meaning with the help of context cues, and that is by understanding the general sentence sense of the sentence, having a general sense of the sentence. So sometimes you might not find clearly find the synonym or an antonym or example of the unknown word, but if you look at the overall sentence and try to understand the overall sense of that sentence, you can easily understand the meaning. All right, are you getting my point? So let's look at some of the examples. In some cases, conclusion based on the information given the words can be drawn. Asking yourself questions about the sentence or passage may help you make a fair, accurate guess about the meaning of the unfamiliar word. So let's look at some of the examples. A former employee irate. Now, irate is the word in bold, and irate is the unknown word here. A former employee, irate over having been fired, broke into the plant and deliberately wrecked several machines. So now there is no synonym, there is no antonym, and there is no example. But if you try to understand the overall sense of the sentence, you can understand what the word irate means. So the sentence tells us that a former employee, which means the person is no more employee, irate over having been fired, and that employee was basically fired. Then what happened? He broke into the plant, he hit himself, he just got hurt, and deliberately wrecked several machines. So he broke down several machines because he was. Now you can understand that the word irate means probably angry, irritated. So this is how you can decipher the meaning of this word from the overall context of the sentence. Are you getting my point? And this is the most frequently sort of strategy that you would be required to use, because not every time you will find a synonym in the same paragraph or in the next paragraph, or not every time you would find a list of examples or antonyms. But every time, if you try to understand the overall meaning that the paragraph or the sentence communicate, then probably you can easily decipher the meaning of the unknown word. All right. Despite the proximity of Ron's house to his sister, he rarely sees her. Now, you have to find the meaning of the word proximity. Despite shows that, in spite of this situation, is situation ke bawajood. So despite the proximity of Ron's house to his sister, he rarely sees her. Yani he rarely visits his sister despite the proximity. So proximity, if you understand the overall context, then you can easily understand that the word proximity means closeness. So despite the fact that Ron's house was very close to his sister's house, he do not normally visit her. He rarely visits her. You understand? So even if you don't know the word, a meaning of proximity, you can easily have a sense of this word by looking at the overall sentence. And this is something that is very important. So you need to understand, and you need to use this understanding as a tool. Are you getting my point? Let's look at yet another example. The car wash we organized to raise funds was a fiasco. So if you remember, I mentioned this word in the beginning of this lesson in the second slide, fiasco, and I asked you to try to figure out the meaning, which probably most of you would not been able to do. But now you look at the context. The car wash we organized to raise funds was a fiasco. Read the remaining sentence. For it rained all day. Now, you know what happened, that we organize a car wash, but it for raising funds, but it turned out to be a fiasco because it rained all day. So which means that we organized a car wash and it started raining. So fiasco would probably mean that it turned out to be a disaster, an unsuccessful event, a disastrous event, in fact. So this is what fiasco means. and you were able to understand the meaning by looking at the overall context that was provided. So you need to develop this skill, which will go a very long way with you in improvising or enhancing your existing level of comprehension in the English language. All right. He was born to a family that possessed great wealth, but he died in indigence. Now, indigence was again a word which I gave you in the beginning of this lecture. I asked you to recall the meaning or write the meaning of this word, which maybe most of you would have found difficult to do, but now you can probably decipher the meaning. So he was born to a family that possessed great wealth. And the word but shows that something in opposite is about to come. But he died in indigence. So we know that his family was really rich, wealthy, and it possessed great wealth, but he died in indigence, which means he died in poverty, ghurbat, right? So indigence means poverty. So, my friend Julie is a great procrastinator. She habitually postpones doing things from household chores to homework. So, if you read the entire sentence, and you learn that she kind of keep on postponing things from doing household chores to homework, you would have a clearer idea of what the word procrastinator means. So a procrastinator is someone who deliberately delays doing things from the very till the very last moment, till the last moment possible. So this is what the word procrastinator means. All right. Since my grandfather retired, he has developed such avocations. Now you have to find the meaning of avocations as gardening and long distance bike riding. So this is comparatively very simple as gardening. Examples are there, gardening and long distance bike riding. So these are activities in the sense of hobbies. So the word avocations means hobbies. The lizard was so lethargic. You have to find out the meaning of lethargic. The lizard was so lethargic that I wasn't sure if it was alive or dead. It didn't even blink. So, it just stayed there. It was difficult for me to understand if the lizard was alive or dead because it did not even blink, right? Jaise palak bhi na jhapakna. So, which means that lethargic basically means someone who is very lazy, right? So, if you look at the context, you can easily understand the meaning of the word lethargic. Sometimes you can also enhance your vocabulary by understanding the root words, prefixes, and suffixes. Because they have their own meaning and they can be looked up individually as well. And with the help of understanding the root word or the prefixes or suffixes, you can understand the overall meaning of the words too. For instance, a prefix is a letter of group of words that come at the beginning of a word, and suffix is added at the end of the word. So prefix basically alters the meaning. For instance, if you add the word "un" to the word happy, the meaning becomes opposite. Some of the other suffixes are mis. For instance, mismanagement. So mismanagement, if you add mis, it would become opposite of management. If you add into ability, it will become opposite of ability, inability. Discontinue, opposite of continue. Impossible, opposite of possible. Substandard, which means low in standard. Redevelop, which means developing again, right? And what does a suffix do? It normally does not change a meaning, but it often changes the word from one word class to another. Sometimes it changes the meaning as well. For instance, when you add the word ness and the word kind, which is adjective, it becomes a noun, kindness. And sometimes a prefix can also change the part of speech. What are root words? Root is basically a basic word to which prefixes and suffixes can be added. It cannot be further separated into words, and it can be found either in the beginning or middle or end of a word. So, what do you mean by these words? Philanthropy and anthropology. In these two words, there is a similar root word, which is anthropo. Anthropo means human. So philanthropy is working for the welfare of humans, and anthropology is a field of study in which you study about human. Autography, automatic, and autocrat, all these words have a similar root word, which is auto. So if you know the meaning of auto, you can easily understand the meaning of autography, automatic, and autocrat. Some won't understand the meaning. So auto means self, so autography means writing about self. Automatic means something that can works on its own, on itself. Autocrat, again, you can identify the meaning with the word, with the root word. Biology and biosphere. So bio is the root word and bio means life. So biology is the study of life, and biosphere, life of earth, I guess. Okay, submarine, submerge, and substandard. So it's below. Sub means below. So which means below the marine life, submerge, and substandard. So if you know the meaning of sub, you can kind of decipher the meaning of these words. Trans means across. Transcontinental, across continent. Transfer, from one place to another. And transport, again, something that transfers people or luggage from one place to another. So across. All right. So learning about more and more root words is also a good way of enhancing your overall vocabulary. For increasing your vocabulary, these are some of the recommendations that I have for you, and I want you to follow this. So read, even if it means reading as little as 15 or 20 minutes per day, but for a longer period of time, so that you kind of develop that interaction with written language. It is also important to read a significant quantity of material, about 20 pages each day or maybe 100 pages each week. So develop this habit. Read a variety of material. Do not, kind of keep yourself restricted to reading just similar materials every time. Read consistently. Read every single day. This is the only way in which you can enhance your vocabulary in the long run. There is no shortcut. Read books that are challenging to improve your vocabulary. Start with simpler books, but then move on to reading more challenging books, books that have difficult content. Keep an informal daily journal of your reading. Maintain a journal in which you keep a record of what you have read, how much have you read, what else do you need to read. In the beginning of the year, you can kind of make a plan for the entire year, and then you can evaluate how far you have met that plan. Keep a vocabulary journal to record the interesting words you find, or make word cards so that you can see your vocabulary growing. So every day you can keep a track of your vocabulary to see how far you have come. I hope this lecture would have helped you in understanding how you can improve your existing vocabulary. So I would see you in the remaining in the second part on vocabulary in the next video. Thank you.